This is KPBS Midday Edition. I'm Maureen Cavanaugh. Punk rock lovers of a certain age can probably tell you exactly where they were and what they were doing when they first heard Patti Smith's 1975 album, Horses. Her blend of punk, performance, and poetry was groundbreaking. Her stark and slender black and white image on the cover was spellbinding, and the fact she was female, mind-blowing. The 70s created an iconic image of Patti Smith, but now, luckily, she's back performing, giving new life to that image. She'll be in San Diego later this week for two shows, one focused on her new album and one focused on her poetry and her award-winning book, Just Kids. It is a pleasure to welcome Patti Smith. Hi, Patti.
Hi, hello. Nice to talk to you.
Now, you've written poetry and books, songs, created visual art, recorded albums. Are all these connected for you, or do you have to kind of switch gears in your approach to each?
Well, they're all ultimately connected. How I have to switch gears is process. And, obviously when I'm working on an album or performing, it's a collaborative process. And when I'm writing poetry or taking photographs, it's a solitary process. So the things that motivate me might be very similar. Certainly the amount of effort and care I put into each discipline, but it really breaks down to whether it's collaborative or solitary.
Is it nice to have that balance between the collaborative and the solitary?
Yes, I think I'm very lucky. I mean, I crave solitude, and I'm sort of a loner, but I really also like having a camp. I like having a team. Our operation is small. We've been together, most of my people, for decades, and I really feel like we have, a camp, and where we're all we have the same mission, and it feels good. I have a sense of leadership in a very democratic situation, but when I need to be by myself and create on my own, I can validate my ability to do that through my writing or taking a photograph. So I'm very lucky actually to have these two poles to go back and forth.
Now, Patti, you said that at a young age you knew you wanted to be a poet. How did you know?
Well, first of all, I wanted to be a writer. I didn't, when I was very young, I didn't specifically desire to be a poet, but it just seemed that was the way that I most expressed myself when I was younger. And the thing about being a poet, you can't want to be a poet. It seems to be something that comes from within. One can learn how to write a poem, but poetry is such a special language, and it takes a special gift. So for me, I think it's probably the most difficult of the arts. And I can't, so I haven't devoted my whole self to poetry, but I started writing it so young, and my first published work was a poem. So I felt, I don't know, I feel very akin to poetry.
When did music enter into the picture as being sort of a way to give your poetry a new dimension?
I think really I just wrote. Again, poetry especially is a very solitary experience. But when I was, 19, 20, in my early 20s, I was so energetic. I had so much energy, and was such a physical writer that the act of writing and even the act of later performing my poems just wasn't satisfying enough. I started performing poetry because I felt compelled to do that, but I had too much energy, really, and I felt, I'm a child of rock and roll, so it seemed almost natural to have some electric guitar behind me propelling me on, and so I recruited Lenny Kaye, really to to give me just an energetic surge behind my words. And then we started working with very simple chord structures, the same structures in songs like Gloria, and then I just organically began to sing. But I came from a neighborhood, I was brought up in rural South Jersey and hung out a lot in Philadelphia, and back then in the early 60s when I grew up, everybody sang. So it wasn't really far-fetched for me to sing. I never thought of myself as a singer, but everybody sang when I was young.
I'm speaking with Patti Smith, and we're talking about her touring with her new album, Banga, and she's coming to San Diego this weekend for 2 performances. Just a moment, I want to talk about your memoir, Just Kids. It won the National Book Award for nonfiction a couple of years ago, and it's about your friendship with artist Robert Mapplethorpe, and
yes.
He, of course, died in 1989. How did the two of you meet?
We met, I came to New York in 1967, the summer of 67, when I was 20, looking for a job. And there was no work in South Jersey nor Philadelphia back then because of the closing of the New York shipyard. There just was no work, so I came to New York City because there was a lot of bookstores, and I went around Brooklyn because I knew some kids that lived near Pratt Institute. And I had nowhere to sleep. I had no money, I had no plans, and I was just trying to find a place to sleep. But my friends had moved, and the person that I found in my friend's old place was this, slim, curly-haired, this boy with masses of dark curly hair and sort of a lopsided grin. Very kind, very sweet boy, and that was Robert.
What role did you play for each other at that really crucial stage when you were both becoming artists?
Well, I think that Robert instilled confidence in me. I was kind of awkward. I was still discovering myself and asking questions of my worth, and Robert had no such qualms about who he was. He had a lot of confidence, and he instilled that confidence in me by believing in me. And I was very sturdy, very able and happy to work, get a job, be a breadwinner, where Robert was a little more delicate in that area. It was very hard for him to create when he had to extend a lot of energy into a monotonous 9-to-5 job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I supported his work. I believed in him. I supported him financially. And Robert taught me everything he knew about, about drawing, and we shared skills. He had more skills than I did, and so we worked together. And as I said, he instilled a lot of confidence in me. I really think we helped each other get strong enough and ready to face the second tier of our world, which was New York City.
That was the next step. I really want to play just a little bit from your latest album, Banga. Here's a little clip from the tune called April Fool. That is April Fool from Banga, which is the latest album of my guest, Patti Smith. One thing that you're going to be doing here in San Diego, Patti, is you're going to be doing 2 performances, but the one on Saturday night at Spreckles, you'll be reading, basically, a little bit of music, but what kinds of things do you expect to do during that performance?
Well, when I do performances like that, they pretty much, we invent them as we go along. You know, when I go without my whole band, I mean, I'm certain some of my band members will come by and we'll do songs. I just make it an evening. I see what the people want. They can ask me questions. I'll read poems. I'll read from Just Kids, sing songs that I think are relevant, or, you know, take requests. Sometimes spar with the people. Those kind of evenings I really like because they're unfettered by a lot of technology and some of the responsibilities of doing a concert. Done with the same energy, just there's more room for improvisation. But I like these evenings because, you know, I'm up for anything. I'm up for just sitting there talking to the people, or if they want to hear more songs and Lenny Kay stops by, or one of my other musicians, we'll just play songs, and certainly I'll be reading, telling stories, whatever.
You know, talking about being up for anything, I saw a little video you have on your website where you were in Italy, and there was a person in the audience who wanted to make a political statement. You basically just said, go for it. And you ended that out by saying, you know, there aren't that many forums where people can get out what it is that they need to tell a whole bunch of people. How important is that for you to have that kind of for the people in your audience to feel comfortable enough to interact with you in that way?
Well, it's very important to me. I mean, obviously, sometimes I need to just channel their energy and speak myself. We played in Paris for 100,000 people, and that's not the right forum to spar with and talk with people. It just doesn't, it's not going to translate. But if I'm in the right venue and I feel that we can do something that will benefit everyone, we just do it. Every concert for me is totally different. That concert was unique because I don't know how many people were there. You know, there could have been 10,000. I don't know how many people. But it was a day, it was a special concert commemorating an event that happened in Italy that was suppressed by the government, and that the people have fought very hard to bring out to the open. So when this young girl needed to speak about another issue, I thought this was not the time to suppress a young person that really needed to speak about something important. So every night is different. You know, you have to sort of monitor. You know,
you were sidetracked. That's I'm listening to Patti Smith right now.
But you gotta think of.
Yeah, I'll be waiting here.
All right. You have to get a sense of what the individual needs are of the people, but we're still a collective, and so I always try to, keep a thread of my responsibility, But I like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I don't, sometimes you do a classic rock concert where it's all music, all songs, and it ramps, and it's a rock concert. Right. And other nights, maybe there's more talking, maybe there's more stories, maybe there's more improvisation. Right. There's no predicting.
I have to tell everyone, Patti, that Patti Smith will be performing at 2 events in San Diego this weekend. UCSD Art Tower presents Downtown with Patti Smith, a reading of Just Kids, and Smith's Poetry Saturday at Sparkles Theater in downtown San Diego. And Patti Smith performs with her band Sunday at the House of Blues in downtown San Diego. We are out of time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.